What's up, everyone? Kevin here from Skywatcher. Welcome to another episode of the What's Up Webcast. We do this every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here at the Skywatcher USA YouTube channel. We cover everything from what's up in the nighttime sky to equipment to helpful tips and tricks. Of course, at the end of the month, we have a special guest to talk about their specialty in the field of astronomy. So today we are talking about a brand new mount. This has actually been in development for a few years. So we're finally bringing it out here in North America. I know it's available around the world as well. And that is the EQ AL-55i, which is quite a bit of stuff to say. We have a little bit of dyslexia in our team, so the AL-EQ thing got kind of flipped around in the thing there. So forgive us for that. If you like what you see here on the channel, please go ahead and subscribe, leave a like on the video. If you have an idea for an episode, email us info@skywatchusa.com and title that What's Up and give us your idea for an episode. We appreciate what you guys definitely do. If you want to stay up with what's going on at Skywatcher, head over to skywatchusa.com, hit the subscribe and save button up at the top, and join our email list. It lets you know about sales, new product, what's up in 1 month topics, and all kinds of fun stuff that we do on the email list there, so you can join over there and stay a part of the Skywatcher team. So today we are talking about a brand new mount. Oh, I'm sorry, I kind of skipped over a thing. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and leave a like. You can also head over to skywatcher.threadless.com and you can check out all of our swag and other fun stuff like that. If you know someone in the Arizona, pretty much the Phoenix area, and they need help with telescopes or they're new, my company, Focus Astronomy, we teamed up with the Arizona Science Center, and on January 26th from noon to 3, it's a 3-hour class. We're doing a hands-on telescope workshop just to help people who got telescopes for the holidays, or if you're local and you just don't know what you're doing with your scope and you need some help. You can head over there and sign up. It's $35 per person. All the money goes to the Arizona Science Center to help them continue doing what they do and bringing science to the community and stuff like that. Focus is not getting anything financial out of that. So all that goes to the Science Center. 3 hours. We have all kinds of equipment on display, eyepieces, filters, and then we break up into teams and help people with their equipment and hopefully get you out under the sky and get some new astronomers. So if you know somebody, you can head over to the website there. We'll have some of the Skywatcher stuff there too if you're going to come to that. So anyway, let's get started. So this is our brand new EQ AL-55i. So let me give you just an overview of this little equatorial mount. These are in stock. We are trying to get everything up on the website, and all the information should be with dealers. We're just getting some final details ironed out. But the minute it all goes live, probably in the next week or so, I would think, if you want to place an order for one, they're sitting in California right now. So the delay of getting one won't take very long. So here's a little bit of information on the 55i. Some of you are very familiar with our EQM35. That's kind of been our intro equatorial GoTo mount. Above the Star Adventure GTI and below the 5 series, like the AZ-EQ5 and the HEQ5. So it's right in there. This is actually replacing the EQM35. And there's some things that I really like on this mount. I've been testing it for a couple years now in the wings, just to get it all figured out. But I think it'll be a really nice mount for those looking for something a little bit more budget friendly, especially when comparing to like a strain wave mount. Strain waves are fantastic. The Wave 100 and 150Is are very nice mounts, as well as all the other strain waves on the market. But if you're a beginner, a lot of us were on a budget when we got started. If you're trying to tell someone like, hey, you need a $2,000 strain wave mount, because by the time you get a strain wave and you can configure it in the way that you want, you're about $2,000 in no matter which way you cut it. That's just the advanced technology there. a traditional equatorial still has a place, especially being for the more budget-friendly side of things. So the 55i fits that. They're going to retail here in the States for $760. The EQM35 is over $900. So it got chopped down by almost $200 in here. So this will be a really fun little mount. So for those to use. So yeah. So it has a payload of 22 pounds or 10 kilograms. The head weight is 8.2 pounds, which is the heaviest part of the entire system, or 3.7 kilograms. Total weight, all assembled with the 2 counterweights that it includes, is 33 pounds. So you can pick this whole thing up with the counterweights without a problem. It's easy. Control, it's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth wireless control. The reason why Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is nice to have is now there is so much stuff on the field. Like if you go to a star party, there's so much Wi-Fi on the field that you eat up the signals really, really quickly. So the Bluetooth option is nice to have if you need wireless control without having to be stuck with all of that. My audio's peaking. I think I had it ramped up a little bit, or I might be too close. So, yeah, so you have Wi-Fi control, Bluetooth. I pulled the audio down just a little bit, so hopefully the cracking doesn't stop. I think I was just too close and had the audio too high. What's the question? Does that mean the HEQ5 will be replaced in the near future? I have nothing right now. It'd be nice if we had an updated HEQ5, like a R version. I have nothing to share at the moment for that, but that's the one mount that does need to be addressed. So my mic is peaking. Okay, hopefully now, hopefully everything with the audio is okay. I'm not sure what's going on with it. I reset everything before it, and I've dialed it down a bit, so I don't know what's going on there. You can also use our SynScan hand controllers. They are optional. You do not... audio's still cracking. I don't know what more... Try this again. Is that better? Is that better? I reset the audio again. Everything's as good as it's gonna get. So I'm not sure why it's having problems. Maybe a connection. I'm not sure. Anyway, going on. I'm sorry about the tech stuff. But you can do Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. That is standard in the mount. It is built into the mount. You can use our hand controller. There is no hand controller in the box. I don't want people to get this and be like, there's no hand controller. Yeah, there never was. Hand controller is optional for this. So many people want to do astrophotography nowadays that they end up just chucking the hand controller in the box and never touching it. So as long as it's available, which it is, you can buy them on our website. You can always add it. If you already have a Skywatcher equatorial mount, you can just take the hand controller from there and pop it in here and you're good to go. The mount has a built-in illuminated polar scope, which is pre-aligned at the factory. You don't have to collimate it or anything when you get it. It's ready to go. There's a little spring-loaded cap in the back with little pins in there. You just pop it back there. I actually think it's the nicest polar cap that we've ever done. It was well engineered on it. As a V-style saddle, it runs off of 12-volt power. So you can actually range between, 9 to 12 volts, I believe. Just use one of those power pack, Celestron power packs. That's what we use. Or, I like using 5 amp AC adapters just so you have more power if you need it. So internal specs, motors, these are mini servos. So this mount is a bit louder than some of our other mounts, but that's because it does use servos. So the servos tend to be louder than our steppers do. So if you get it and it sounds a little bit gritty, that's actually normal, just because you do have a gearbox inside of a servo motor. So all those little things have to ramp up. So these are going to be a little bit more chatty sounding than like the little jet engine sounds of the servo motor or stepper motors, like are on all the larger mounts, like the Waves and the 5 series and up all use stepper motors. The RA worm is actually made of copper, which is pretty interesting. 11 millimeters on the diameter of the worm, and the gear is 73 millimeters in diameter, and that's made of aluminum as well. So let's see. From the sounds of it, GTI is ultra portable. 55i is something home car portable. Yes, that's really. I have been working with this mount for about 2 to 3 years. Testing them as we've been working on them. There's a ton of stuff in development right now. We're really excited to show you guys. This mount really, I think, hits a particular need in the market. The GTI, Star Adventure GTI, like our friend mentioned, is a great little grab and go mount, especially for travel when you want GoTo. But its biggest issue has been payload. Everyone wants to do more. The 55i is a little bit bigger. You could still probably travel, like fly with one of these. You'd have to get crafty with it. But if you're just, I want to go out in the backyard, I want to go do outreach, I want something that's generally pretty easy to take to the field, this little thing is very easy to move. So it would not. You could fit it in a backpack. It's going to get heavy by the time you add the weights and stuff to it, though. So this is a great little mount for like the small telescopes that are on the market. Oh, come on. There we go. So latitude range. The latitude range for this is one of the selling features and one of the unique things of the EQ. This is where AL comes in. So AL in the name, so it's EQ AL-55i. It's an EQ mount, and it is what is known as all latitudes. So this has a very similar capability to like the Star Adventure GTI and the CQ350, where the counterweight bar has 2 different positions that it can be mounted to. The latitude range for this thing, it goes anywhere on the planet. 0 to 90 degree latitude range. I will let you know that once you get about 80 degrees in latitude, the little latitude adjustment lever on the back of the mount starts to hit the polar scope. I know not a lot of people are ever going to get to that height, but if you do, if you want to go anything above 80, you have to take the polar scope out and unthread it. Which it just unthreads from the back. It's not a big deal. Then you can bring it up to 90. What's more useful is for a lot of our friends around the equator, and we've had people call in about this, is that you can take this thing all the way down to 0 if you have to. So it can go all the range that you're going to need. Here's the 2 different positions. This is also shown with the optional peer extension, which is really nice because we didn't have this on the EQM35 or some of our smaller mounts. This guy right here actually has the extension, which we're going to talk about here. That's optional, but we'll talk about it here in a minute. But if you want to use it in the more traditional way, you really are going to need that, especially for most of the area that we'd be using this in. If you want to use it in the traditional counterweight position, which is just down from the saddle, you're going to need the extender so the weights don't hit anything. Or the way I've been using it is the counterweight bar in the outer position is how I use it. I'm about 33 degrees latitude, and if I'm not using the peer extension, I need to have the bar in the more outward position so it doesn't hit the tripod. So. I hope you have a pic of this in a case or something. I don't have a picture of a case just yet for this thing. I don't have a case for it. If I was going to get a case, if you wanted a case for the mount head, like a Pelican 1510 carry-on would probably work. I have one of those from Harbor Freight. They make a variant of it. They're like $100. They're actually a really nice case. The head should fit in there. If you want to do more, you'd have to go a little bit bigger, but probably like a Pelican 1510 size case, which is carry-on size. So let's see. Yeah. So the outer position for most of us is at least here in the US, that you're probably going to want to use the outer position, of the counterweight bar where it's kind of angled out so you don't hit the tripod. So, there's an example of it, right there. But the pier extension can help quite a bit. Now, accessories, the mount comes with a few different things. This is all stock accessories. So when you get one, this is what's going to come in the box. So you're going to have the mount head. You're going to have the counterweight bar. 2 counterweights, a 3.9 pound and 7.9 or 7.5 pound counterweights are included in the box when you get it. DC power cable, so cigarette lighter. I get it. You guys think that's out of date. A lot of the batteries still use that, so we use it. So, steel tripod, 1.75 inch steel tripod, rolled steel, pretty solid, pretty standard for some of our mounts. An accessory tray, illuminated polar, and an illuminated polar scope. The polar scope is pretty interesting. It sits behind the back, and it's the same reticle that we use on everything else. So it's there in the back. Illuminator is built in, and you actually pull out a little cover in the front there. This is the front clutch. The RA clutch is up in the very front, but there's a hole in the middle of that with a little insert cover that goes over it. So yeah, that's a good little option inside of there. And you can adjust that on the app for the illuminator or the hand controller if you do it. Optional accessories that you can use on this that are dedicated for it. We have the pier extension. This is a pretty solid metal pier extension. It gives you about 8.5 inches of clearance from the tripod. So there's an example right there of, especially if you're using like refractors or it's like imaging systems, that's really what you're going to want is that pier extension. And if I remember correctly, the pier extension is like $87 US. So it's not that much more to add it. So for less than $900, you can have the extension and the mount all together, and you're good to go. But if you're going to be using a refractor, I had my TOC 76, as well as a Star Travel 150 sitting on it, which is actually back here somewhere, behind me, on the table. There's the Star Travel 150. The Takahashi that's on the mount is a FC76 DS is what's on there. So, but the pier extension's really nice. Matches all the white pebble finish. It's nice. So, but yeah, ideal for refractors and imaging systems. So you're not going to be running into it, especially if you've got like a long setup, like monochrome with a filter wheel and all stuff like that. So, V5 controller. If you already have a Skywatcher Equatorial mount, you can already use the hand controller on that. If not, you can always get one of ours. I like using hand controllers, especially when I'm out at events. I don't want to have my phone connected to a device and then it disconnects and there's a million people around and there's lots of signal going around. I much prefer just having the hand controller, so you can get one of the V5 controllers. It gives you a more tactile thing and it's just kind of self-contained and stuff like that. 42,000 object database, it's all in there. So it's a nice little addition if you need it. Let's see. Lots of questions. Yeah, so Takahashi 76DS is the scope that's on there on these pictures so far. I'm currently using the GTI and wanted to upgrade my mount. I was thinking of going with the HEQ5, but cost difference aside, what would be the pros and cons of each? The big thing between this and an HEQ5, number one, the HEQ5 is going to give you 33 pounds of payload capacity. The HEQ5 also has better bearings inside of it. It has the steel needle bearings inside of there, so it's very smooth. There's only so much room we can put in here. I don't know what kind of bearing is in here at the moment. I'm assuming it's like a Teflon bearing, but yeah, it all works. So if you want more payload, like significantly more payload than a GTI, the HEQ5 would probably be the best option. If you don't need that much payload and you still want a small form factor, this little guy would be the way to go, the EQ55i. It really depends on what scope you're using. I've seen a lot of people talking about like red cats, like the Zenith Star 73 someone threw out there. If you're using like a 3-inch refractor for imaging or like a Hyperstar 6, a EQ55i is all you're gonna need. So let's see, and then you can save some money and go get yourself some filters or whatever. So let's see, do we have war crime levels of payload samples here? Oh, I see what you're saying. We're getting there a little bit. So let's see here. Let's talk about the ports on the side of the mount. The mount does have one very, very nice thing that I like about this mount, especially if you might be familiar with the EQM35. The EQM35 had like an external motor box and had cables for everything. A lot of stuff hanging off of it just to run the mount. The EQ55i, everything is internal. There are no external cables. There's no motor cable for the deck, nothing. Everything is built inside the mount. It's extremely clean for what you use it for. So on the side port here, on the power side, there are ports on both sides of the RA axis. Another nice thing about this is the power does not move. Unlike an EQ6R and some of the larger mounts, the power is in the rear of the right ascension axis. So there is nothing that's actually moving with it. Is the EQ6 tripod compatible with this mount head? It is not. The thread size here is smaller than the M12 that's used on an EQ6. Maybe someone has an adapter to mount 5 heads to 6s, but yeah, it doesn't have it all in there. Sorry. So on the side, we have our snap port. If you're a DSLR user, you can actually use the hand controller or the app as your intervalometer. You can set up a whole sequence in there if you want to use this as like a wide angle thing and you don't want to set up an intervalometer. You can actually plug, using the right cables, you can plug into it and go direct and do all your sequencing there. Second up, which a lot of you are probably excited about, that is a USB-C on the side of it, which I was surprised to see the change. The original ones were using mini USBs. They have switched it. Production levels mounts are USB-C. If you want to shoot with an ASI Air or control the mount, you can now just run it with USB-C on the side of the mount, or you can use an EQ mod cable and plug into the hand controller cable on the other side, which we'll get there. But you can run USB-C if it's compatible. If not, just use an EQ mod cable, works fine. So that's how I've been using it, because I just have the cables for testing stuff. So I like EQ mod because I like the serial connection snap connect in there, but it does have USB-C on the side. Standard power switch and a 2.1 millimeter power port, and then the little red LED just above the power port to let you know it's running. When you do turn the mount on, the light will be solid for a couple seconds, and then it will start to just slowly blink to show you that it's ready to connect to Wi-Fi or whatever you're going to be doing with it. So, but that is the left-hand side. If you're standing on the back of the mount, left-hand side, you've got it going there. The other side, on the right hand, you have the auto guide port, which I know none of you know what that is anymore because it's ancient technology, just like dinosaurs. But it's there if you want to use an ST4 serial cable. We do have the auto guide port there. I know most of us are just going to use USB. I understand. Serial connection is kind of nice, but USB has become extremely dominant for guiding, but it's there. And of course, we have our hand controller port, pretty standard. So you can run a typical SynScan hand controller on there if you need it, or your EQ mod cable can plug in there. But there's multiple ways to run this thing. And then, of course, like I said earlier, the mount has no external motor cables or control boxes. All that sits inside the right ascension axis, and there is not a lot of room inside of this thing. So the boards are really unique to this mount, and they're very small, but they've shrunk everything down to fit in here. The engineers did a really good job with this thing. It's extremely clean for as small of a mount as it actually is. Visual use. So some people were asking about, did I push the limits on this? So here's a Star Travel 150 refractor for image scale sitting on here. It would work fine with it, but it's compatible with a wide range of telescopes. It's a V-style saddle, so anything with the Vixen style bar will work on this one. But recommended telescopes, refractors up to 4-inch, reflectors up to about 6-inch, and Cassegrains, you could probably put a C8 on here if you really needed something small. But yeah, those would be my recommendations. Obviously, mileage is going to vary. But yeah, I know, would you recommend it for planetary imaging, something with like a 150 Mac? You could put our 150 SkyMax on this thing. It should be solid, but when you're doing planetary imaging, you're way magnified in there. So, you should be able to make it work, but please remember it's a small mount. Although the gear in here is almost 3 inches in diameter with 73 millimeter diameter RA gear. So it's, for how small it is, it's a pretty decent diameter, on this. So, other than cost concerns, why use a single bolt saddle instead of something with a block to hold the dovetails? I hear what you're saying, like the compression clamps. I much prefer the compression clamps. This is just how they tend to go with it on the more cost-effective mounts. I wouldn't be surprised if come NEAF, if we're talking to ADM and stuff like that, for them to offer a secondary replacement saddle of some kind or some kind of adapter to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if ADM comes up with something, because they're really good at that. So I assume AL means all latitudes. Yes. What does 55 refer to? 55, let me see if I can remember. Usually the numbers in the new naming conventions that we use, it has to do with the payload. I don't remember why 55 was chosen for this, though. But yeah, AL is all latitude. So, yes, that is a Star Travel 150. That is a 6-inch f5 refractor on it. I don't know the weight. It's not terribly heavy, but it's a chubby little thing. That was the sample we brought in to evaluate if we were going to bring it in. I'd love to bring this scope in, but I don't think people would pay for it. But it's a great option as a medium duty field mount. Maybe you don't want something big like an EQ6R, and maybe you don't want something small that's like a GTI, and maybe you don't want to deal with spending money on a strain wave mount. That's where this kind of comes in and fits very nice. It's that very sub $1,000 offering. But yeah, that's a Star Travel 150 on there, which is a little bit big. You could pop a C8 on this thing for visual if you needed to. You might need some extra counterweights, but it should handle it. Again, 22-pound payload capacity. Imaging use. So this is a picture shot on the AL-EQ55. This is an Esprit 100 with a 533 sensor on that. Yeah, this is the Star Travel 150 is a 6-inch, so 150 millimeter f5, so 750 millimeter focal length refractor. So it's a short tube refractor. I would not recommend going and putting some big 6-inch refractor on this thing. It just would be shaky. But like our EvoStar 100, the f9 doublet, that would work. You could probably make our 120 work. although it'd be I think you might get a little bit of vibration. Your mileage may vary, but it should work with that. Is the polar scope 1.25 inch in diameter? No. Let's find out. There's the polar scope. It's all built in. Calipers. Oh. Help if I could show you the camera. There we go. There's the polar scope. Just threads out. Trusty pair of calipers. The diameter of the polar scope. Mode. There we go. The largest diameter of it is 20.5 millimeters. Although the thread adapter that's on this, oh, it's a female thread. Interesting. 30 millimeters. But yeah, the barrel of this is about 20. So there's the cap. It has these little spring-loaded ball bearings in there, which are really kind of nice. And pops right into place, locks in position. So, do we have numbers on the biggest payload we can run without counterweights like a GTI? No, you cannot run this mount without counterweights. This is a traditional equatorial mount. I would not recommend running this thing without a counterweight, because you can damage the mount. You could probably get away with it, but we're only talking like a camera or something like that, like maybe a 70 to 200. But I would recommend using it more like a traditional equatorial. So yeah, the GTI cap could use some work. I agree with you. So no, you cannot fit this in like a diagonal. It's mounted inside the mount, so there's no way to pop it into a diagonal or something like that. Imaging use, which I know so many of you would like to know about. So this is ideal for those small imaging scopes, something like this. 4-inch, I would say, on the short side of things. Reflectors, it would be something like the Quattro 150. Maybe you could use one of those Carbon Star 150s from High Point if you wanted. That would be about the biggest I would put on it. Cassegrains, like a 6-inch Cassegrain, mainly like a C6 with a Hyperstar would work. But this is a really good mount for a lot of those small refractors, fast 100 millimeters, red cats, some other stuff that we're going to be showing you guys here soon, stuff like that. So little things is what this is ideal for. This is just a guide shot right here. I know some of these numbers look weird for people with those spikes, but just to give you an example, it was shot with a fully loaded payload. This was pushing the mount to its absolute max capability. So it was a fully loaded Esprit 100. I don't remember, because the camera I've gotten here is bigger on this one. So this other one was shot with a 533. But this was with a guider, with an ASI Air, with an Esprit 100, with extra counterweights, and it was performing really nicely, to be honest. So I was pretty happy with what it was. I know a lot of people give us flack about our guiding numbers, saying, oh, it should be under an arc second, which this particular sample of guiding is. But what I'd like people to remember, particularly on these small mounts, is people get very hung up on, oh, the mount doesn't guide under an arc second. Well, we need to remember on a small mount, it's usually being paired with an optic that cannot even resolve under an arc second. So we need to be realistic about what your instrumentation is going to actually perform and what it's not going to do. So there's a lot of people that expect a mount to be at this level of performance, but we have to keep in mind realistically what is going on that mount to begin with. Now, something like an EQ8R or big stuff, there's a good chance the optics that are going to be riding on there are requiring sub-arc second guiding. That's what you pay for, and that's what the telescope can resolve. But on small mounts, like a lot of the strain waves and things like that, most of them do perform under an arc second guiding, which is exceptional. But if it peaks over an arc second, we have to remember that the payload that we're using is not able to even produce a resolution of that capability. So there's a balance that we need to remember on all of that. The black box on this was an early test sample. This was using black motor housings where the production ones are white. So that's the only difference there. This is a pre-production test sample that was done with the black, and then the production ones are completely white. Without the counterweight question comes from the ultra wide field. If you can use this with, say, a nifty 50 and a DSLR without counterweights, then it's better than the GTI. You could probably get away with it, but I would always tell people anytime you are using a system that is out of balance, you're putting stress on the gearing. And over time, if you keep doing that over time, you have the possibility of wearing down components. Now, if it's something like a DSLR and a little 50 millimeter, we're not talking a lot of weight. It's not the end of the world. Sure, you could probably get away with it. But keep in mind, this is also a GoTo mount. It is not like the Star Adventurer 2i. The 2i is not made to slew quickly across the sky from target to target. A GoTo mount, however, those run at higher speeds, and they're moving those gears a lot faster. So as you slew across the sky to different positions, we need to remember that because we're slewing faster with an out-of-balance payload, over time you can start to wear down components. Or being balanced, you're not putting all that stress on there over time. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, it performed very nicely. It gave really nice images, even near its payload limit being maxed out. It did a very nice job at producing nice stars. I didn't have any complaints with it. So I think a lot of people will enjoy this mount. Again, very clean, very easy to use. But it's a good sub-$1,000 GoTo mount option that can hold a wide range of these very popular small refractors for imaging, or it can be a very great let's go out and observe a mount that has a good amount of payload, but it's not this big cumbersome thing. So I really think it will fit a niche that people have been looking for, where it's budget friendly, but the quality's there. But it really works with a lot of the telescopes that so many of us are actually using. So I hope you guys actually like it. Let's see. That's actually kind of blew through this very quickly. There's not a lot more I can say on it. Having tested a wide range of our products now, I can actually say, just from a user experience, getting away from just being Kevin at Skywatcher, it's a very nice little mount. I mean, it does the job. It runs with ASI Air. If you need anything, it can do that without a problem. I'm sure it runs on all the same popular stuff. If you know how to run any of our other mounts, like you can do it with, I'm sure, Nina or Green Swamp Server, pick your poison. But yeah, so it's a nice little mount, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it. And my hopes for this are that there'll be so many more people who can get into imaging without feeling like they have to spend tons and tons of money on something else. I'm hoping this will be a good stepping stone or gateway for people to get into imaging without, or just viewing. It gives you a good quality mount without having to be this big expensive endeavor, because I think a lot of us have actually seen that, you know, budgets get difficult by the time you throw a telescope and a camera and all this other stuff in there. it adds up really quickly. So there's a lot of options out there for imaging. When it comes to telescopes, this mount I'm hoping will really fit that and will get more people into the hobby and allow people to actually do more on their budget. So that's the goal, without us having to sacrifice all this quality and making something that's just junk. So I've been very impressed with this mount. I'm hoping a lot of you will enjoy it too. They're very nice. The little pier extension is a great addition. As an outreach mount, it's a fantastic little thing. Doesn't weigh too much, holds a good range of stuff. So, oh, hey, Nico. Will it only be packed with a tripod, no head only option? No, it will all be packed in one box. There's not a head option for this. So when you get it, it comes with everything that we talked about in one single box. There's not going to be variants of it. The only thing that will be optional will be the hand controller and the pier extension. Any chance you have a common travel backpack where you can show how it fits? I don't. I'm sure someone will do it. I guess we'll have to send one to Nico, and he can do all that cool stuff on travel. Yes, Nico, I'm completely throwing you under the bus. I'm sure these will be out with the reviewers here soon. Like I said, inventory is actually here in the States. So in the next couple days, we'll probably get this up on the website. We're just finalizing some details, and we'll go from there. But these will be available very, very quickly. And the nice thing is, once they're available up on your retailer page, you won't have to wait months and months and months to get it. They're here. We're just getting ready to launch them out. Also, really quickly, since we're just on the topic of releasing new stuff, the steel tripods, the EQ6 adapter for the wave mount, and our Star Adventurer to Wave carbon fiber pier adapter is here as well. So if you've been waiting for the Wave EQ6 tripod and adapter, those have arrived as well. Same thing. We're just making the final adjustments to get them up on the website. But as soon as you see them, the inventory is available. So as someone who's been using the Wave mounts, if you bought a Wave 150, or if you've been thinking about a Wave 150, the steel tripod is absolutely the way to go. It is freaking solid. I've been testing a C11 Edge HD on a Wave 150 just to prove guiding numbers. That tripod is what brings the Wave 150 home. So, but yeah. So, that's all I really got on this mount. It's really nice. I think a lot of you will actually enjoy it. I think it fits a really good little spot that will be useful for a lot of people. And what my hopes are is more people will get into the hobby, and this will be a good platform for you to get started. We understand this probably won't be the end-all be-all mount for you, but it's a good foundation for so many people to get started without having to blow a ton of money, and you can focus more on the fun stuff like the telescope and the cameras and all that fun stuff. So that's pretty much it for this week. If you have questions, you better throw them in really quick because we're about to wrap this thing up and finish a bit early. Next week, we're going to be talking about diagonals. So diagonals are things that I think are overlooked, but a good quality diagonal, way it's a diagonal or it's a prism. We're going to talk about all those and what to choose and when and why, because sometimes there's a really good reason to choose a prism. Other times there's a really good reason to choose a mirror. And the different types of what's a star diagonal, what's a dielectric diagonal, what's enhanced aluminum, what's a gold coated or silver. There's a lot of different diagonal options on the market, and maybe as a beginner or someone who's just getting started, or you're just thinking about upgrading some stuff, maybe you don't understand why some diagonals are $400 and why some diagonals are $50. So we're going to talk about that next week and go into some details about diagonals and prisms and all that fun stuff. So that's pretty much it for this week. Again, that is the EQ AL-55i. It's a cute little thing. I think a lot of people will enjoy it. I think a lot of us have equipment that would fit this really, really well, and it makes getting out and observing in the backyard without having to spend thousands. It's a good fit. Sorry about your thumbnails. Thank you. I hate these thumbnails. So, wasn't my choice, but I hate these thumbnails. So, but that's pretty much it for this week. Again, if you like what you see here, please go ahead and subscribe, leave a like on a video. If you want to support the channel more, you can head over to skywatch.threadless.com. Check out all kinds of cool stuff that's over there. If you know someone who needs help with a telescope and they're here in the Phoenix area, you can head over to focusastro.org, go down to events, and do help class. We have room for 20 people in this class. 3 hours, crash course into telescopes. Again, all the money goes to the local science museum to help them and do their stuff. So, yeah. But seriously, can we see how the polar scope looks like? Because you can actually... if you want to put some kind of adapter on the polar scope, you're going to have to 3D print it, because it's like I said, it's just shy of 21 millimeters on the barrel of the polar scope, but it threads in the mount. So if you want to do something different, you're going to have to do some 3D printing or machining or something like that. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you very much. Next week, we're talking about diagonals. Yeah, so, yep, that's fun. You'll see these on the website very, very shortly. Give us a couple days, but we're working on getting that up. You'll see it on all your dealer websites probably next week. And then, like I said, inventory is actually here. So the minute you see it and they're available, you'll be able to put an order and get them. You don't have to wait weeks or months for this anymore. We tried to land them easy. So thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Clear skies. Stay warm out there. And thank you very much. Oh, if you're going to NEAF, this will be there. So you'll be able to see it there. It'll be one of the handful of new things that we're showing there. Some things we're announcing leading up to NEAF, like the Heliostar, AL-EQ55. There's also a few other things up our sleeve that you guys will start seeing here soon that I think some of you will be excited about. Some of it works really well with this mount too. So we might have a lot more in store. I know we have more in store, but we might have a lot more in store. So thanks very much, everyone. Clear skies. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. See ya. Bye.